Well, howdy, folks, and welcome to the Humpnostication Proclamation, brought to you by the good folks at Gup's Corner. Let me tell you, man, this is where we analyze the ownership trends over at Fanshare Sports, and I look for some high upside GPP top players who are trending for low ownership this week. Now, this week we have a very, very special guest in the proclamation to help me work through all this information. And it's Mr. Peter Jennings, none other than CSURAM88. Thank you for joining me today, Pete.
It's an honor to be with you, Hump. I'm ready to get into some contrarian plays.
All right, man. Well, let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. At quarterback this week, I'm going with a guy by the name of Matt Ryan, man. He's at home. He's out of the division. According to the trends tool over there at Fantasy Labs, at home and out of division, these guys average nearly 2 full DraftKings points per game, more than a QB playing in division. So he's a good spot there. The Cardinals, they're coming from the west, heading east to play in a 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time game, late in season. I kind of like that. And you're a crack team of brainiacs there over at Labs. They currently have Ryan with both the highest floor and ceiling projection for QBs on the dadgum main slate. But man, my man, Matt Ryan, Matty Ice, he's only got 5 tags right now over at Fanshare with a gross 67% sentiment rating. Even Jeff Driscoll has more dadgum tags than Ryan right now, and Josh Allen has 5 times the amount of tags. So it seems like, Ryan is going virtually unowned in a really good spot. What's Hump missing here, Pete?
I hope you're right on Matt Ryan. I desperately need him in these best ball championships. My best teams left are all Matt Ryan stacks. I'm hoping it's a Tevin Coleman week too, and maybe that gets done through the air. I love the Matt Ryan call. I think everything sets up extremely well for him. The only thing that gives me concern is Arizona has been so bad on offense that if Atlanta gets up big, and let's say it's like a defensive touchdown or a rushing touchdown where Matt Ryan's not doing the scoring early, that's the downside. But man, I'm with you. I think it's a great spot at home. And David Johnson, I think the best tournament stack would be like Matt Ryan, Julio, maybe Tevin Coleman or Ridley, and then run it back with David Johnson, who has a great matchup as well. So I'm on the Matt Ryan train. I need him desperately. So let's hope, Hump, we're on that one together.
All right, I like it, man. Now let's move on to the running back spot. At running back, I got the guy named Leonard Fournette. He's currently sitting with 11 tags at Fanshare. There's 4 running backs with more than double that amount, including Ezekiel Elliott, who's got like triple or quadruple the amount. Now, Fournette's 7,500, so he's the 3rd highest priced back on the main slate this week. He's only behind Saquon and Zeke. Now, obviously, he's coming off a really gross and disappointing game at Tennessee. But the Redskins, they're a dadgum dumpster fire, man. I don't even know who the quarterback is this week. And right now, Fantasy Labs has got this man, Mr. Fournette, as one of only 4 running backs with a ceiling projection of 30. The Jaguars are also 7.5-point favorites playing at home. Now, historically, this is a really good spot for running backs. They're at home. They're favored by more than a touchdown. But I noticed something really, really strange over at the Fantasy Labs using the trends tool. And now over the course of his career, Fournette has been better on the road than he has been at home. And he's been better as an underdog than he has been as a favorite, which is just dadgum wild. Now, it's not a huge sample. It's about 12, 11 games in each split. So obviously, there's not a ton of data there, but it's really, really strange. Now, if he's got this kind of messed up little home road split, and maybe that's affecting his ownership projection here. But I mean, if a guy's going to get me possibly 30 points and he's not going to have ownership on him, I'm ready to fire him up. What do you think, Pete?
Hump, I thought we might disagree, but Fournette is probably my favorite GPP running back. Adam Levitan on the DFS Edge used him as his bold call. I mean, this is just a dream scenario. The Redskins played great defense all year, but after all these injuries, they're now out of it. Levitan referenced it. One of their star defensive players basically was talking about how he hated playing there. And it just seems like the morale is just completely tanked for the Redskins. And Dan Snyder is probably one of the worst owners in all of sports. So Redskins completely trending down. Jaguars aren't, playing for much, but Fournette has been really, really good when given a lot of volume. And I don't see why they wouldn't use him a ton. I think Jaguars defense, Fournette makes a ton of sense. And yeah, those splits are weird. I've actually looked at that a little bit. The home road thing, just in general, is mostly noise. Obviously, we like home running backs more just because they're favored. The weird thing for Fournette is that he's done better versus dogs, considering he's not like a pass catching running back. A lot of times you will see running backs perform really well as dogs because they get a lot of passes, which is great on DraftKings, the full PPR site. Fournette is just like a banger who's going to, his ceiling games come when he gets like 25, 30 carries. But I'm going to ignore that. I'm all in on Leonard Fournette. And I think Leonard Fournette plus the Jaguars defense is a big-time GPP winner this week.
Yeah, and I noticed the same thing. It's really weird, the whole underdog thing. And he's got a number that's nearly 5 DraftKings points per game better as an underdog. And he's not, like you say, a guy who catches a ton of passes. So it's just really bizarre. One thing
I would expect Yeldon to be the guy who's doing well in those games, not Fournette, but that is weird.
One thing I did notice that, and we said it's a small sample, it's 12 games in that split. And in 4 of those 12 games, he did have more than 24 DraftKings points. So, I mean, he's had some really stinky games, but he's had about 33% of 24 points or more. So that's not bad. All right, man, moving on. We go to the wide receiver. Now, here we go. Davante Adams. Dude, my man has got 7 tags on FanShare right now. Now, I understand they're playing the big, bad Chicago Bears. These guys prove they can play some serious defense against the high-flying Rams last week. So, I mean, obviously, we got to be concerned with that. But, I mean, this is no proverbial walk in the park for Davante. He's the 6th highest priced wide receiver on the slate, and he's working, with the 5th lowest implied team point total. So it's a little bit scary, 19.5 points. That's a little bit gross, but the man has just insane upside, and the volume obviously is not a concern. He's double-digit targets in 3 of his last 4 games. He's averaging 11 targets per game during that stretch. He's had at least 21 DraftKings points in 4 of his last 5 games, 7 of his last 9. I mean, talk Hump off of Davante in this very gross spot, Peter.
Man, I don't know. I like the first 2 plays a smidge better. I love the Fournette call. I think that's really, really sharp, and I definitely rooting for Matt Ryan. Adams, to me, I think he might come in a little bit higher on than you're expecting, but yeah, I mean the downside is the matchup, but Aaron Jones and these other guys should struggle too, and if they get down, they should be throwing a lot. And like you said, Adams has ridiculous volume, especially in terms of his usage in the red zone and end zone targets. I mean, when they get down there, Rodgers just hones in on him, and Adams is obviously incredible at getting open in the red zone. We've seen other plays where he's not even open, and Aaron Rodgers just throws in the perfect place. So I like the Adams call a lot. I think there's potentially some game stacks there. I've heard a couple sharp people say they like that game more than most. Could be a letdown spot for the Bears too after a really big win, but still a divisional game, which is my concern. And Aaron Rodgers historically has been better at home. So I like that call, but I don't love it as much as the other 2 calls, but I like it.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. I'll take it, Mr. Ram.
I don't hate it. I'm waiting for a take where I'm just like, Hump, you're too high, man. Like, let's tone it down.
Okay, maybe this is the one. Maybe this is the one coming at you with my tight end take. Now, tight end is just it's a dadgum wasteland this season. It's a really gross place. It looks like from the ownership trends that we're kind of heading towards a Gronk chalk week this week after his explosion last week. And I was dadgum wrong about that, man. I thought that guy was done. He's got back injury. He's got all kinds of injuries. And I did not think he was ever going to have a game like that again. But he blew it up last week. And obviously people, recency bias, they're on him this week. Now, let's be honest. The GOAT play at tight end this week would really be Hunter Henry. But he already played on Thursday night. And, so we can't go there. Now, since I picked Matt Ryan at quarterback, I was thinking, man, I should just stack him with Tony Gonzalez. But, well, I don't think I'm going to go to that spot either. So who I'm looking at right now is a guy by the name of Jared Cook. Man, he's only $200 less than Gronk. So I think people, they'll say they'll find a way to get that $200 to go up to Gronk. Cook's got 18 targets in his last 2 games. He hasn't seen less than 5 targets in 5 straight games. And he's notched back-to-back 7-catch, 100-yard games, man. And during that time, he's eclipsed 6% ownership only once, man. He's only got double-digit ownership way back on October 7th against the Charger. Hit me with your Jared Cook, I'm crazy take.
I love it, man. So we're 3 for 4 for sure, and it's not even 3 for 4. It's like 3.5 because I'm with you on Adams too, but I don't love him as much as these 3 plays. And Cook is right up there. I think he's with the price on DraftKings, I think a lot of people are going to click Gronk, like you said. And just to comment on Gronk real quickly, like, yeah, he had a huge game. But when the Patriots lost the game, it's because Gronk couldn't make any moves. Like, he looks hurt. He's just not moving the same. He's still a big target, obviously, still on the Patriots. You have Brady the GOAT throwing him the ball, but he's lost a lot of that elite athleticism that he had with his big size. So I think Gronk is a great fade in tournaments, and pivoting to someone in that same price range makes a ton of sense. Love Cook. People are going to be on Ebron and Gronk, like you mentioned. And this game, to me, has really big shootout upside. You're talking about two of the worst defenses in the NFL right now. Derek Carr's actually been playing a little bit better recently. And Jared Cook's the number one option. When Derek Carr has good games, it's because of Cook. So I love that game, stacking it up. I think Driscoll could be a pretty nice play, although he's turning into somewhat chalk. I like Tyler Boyd. I think John Ross is a sneaky GPP play. Love Cook. I have no problem going to like a Seth Roberts or Aitman. That game, especially if you're targeting the passing game, is going to be really low owned. The only chalk play in that game is Mixon. So I'm totally with you on Cook getting the volume. He's an athletic freak. Normally he does really well to start the season and just totally sucks the rest of the year, but this kind of bucked the trend this year. So I love the Jared Cook call.
Man, Pete, I was really hoping that
we're going to win $1 million with this, right?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Oh, man, I think the people, they was waiting. They were saying, oh, man, Hump and Peter Jennings. Now, CSURAM going to rip this boy up, but kind of agreeifying with me, so I don't know if that's good or scary. But so this is what we're going to do now, Pete. I always end the Humpnostication Proclamation with a little segment I call Hump's Hero. Now, I throw all the ownership stuff out of the window then. I don't care if he's the chalk play, the highest played owner on the slate. This is a guy that I want to jam him in my lineup any way I can. But since we have such a specialified guest on, that's you, this week, we're going to turn Hump's hero into the Rams hero. Take it away, Mr. Ram.
Oh, yeah. So I love this play this week. I think it's one of the best spots possible for a fellow CSU Ram, Michael Gallup. Amari Cooper is getting all the attention, and that's really nice. Finally, Amari Cooper paying a little bit of dividends after costing me some homes and almost lost my wife because of Amari. But Michael Gallup quietly has been getting a ton of targets. You look in the air yards model, he's way up there. He's gone from 3 targets to 5 to 6 to 7 to 9 targets last week. He was wide open multiple times. He had a chance for like an 80-yard touchdown. Dak just missed him. And I think that the teams are going to start really trying to take away Amari Cooper, and obviously they have to plan to take away Zeke. So that's going to lead to a lot of single coverage for Michael Gallup. He's got huge upside. I'm biased. He's a CSU Ram, so I got to go there. And that game has a ton of potential, and I think you can get a little lower ownership on Gallup, who's starting to get some mentions. I think people are starting to realize he's a high upside play and he's cheap. So that's the one downside. But, man, I'm going to have a ton of Gallup and GPPs. Maybe a little thin in cash, but I think he's set up to have a GPP winning type game here.
Well, I'm telling you this right now, coming from the CSU GOAT 88, I am plugging this dude into my lineup, Mr. Michael Gallup. I'd actually seen Mr. Fantasy ADHD. He tweets out these kind of weird, like data visual type things that Hump's brain doesn't clearly like understand. But he told me that it minified that Gallup was heading for an explosion type game. So ADHD saying it. Now we got CSU Ram saying it. I think there's probably a pretty good chance we could be hitting an eruption spot. So get on that one, folks. All right, baby. That was the Humpnostication Proclamation. I'm so thankful and grateful to have my friend, Mr. CSURAM88, Peter Jennings, on here. You can follow him on Twitter at CSURAM88. Follow him all over the internet. And I really appreciate coming on today, buddy. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks, man. Hump, it's been an absolute joy, and looking forward to being in the same place with you soon, man.
All right, man. Take care, brother.
Thanks.